It's the first OTA patch of 2024. No ability changes, only number values, and it's a big one. Actually, it's not as big as before. The Blob era. It's officially over. Or is it?
Did you just call me Blob?
Ah, he was everywhere. Not gonna lie, I kinda like that he brought back Thanos and Lockjaw, but apparently he was too much of a menace. Well, too many players whined about his big Blob. Blob goes from a 6-4 to a 6-0. Merge cards from your deck into this until it gains 15 or more power. Oh, and he still has his can't be moved ongoing. So basically, he'll eat your deck card by card until he hits 15 or more power. So for example, if he's gained 14 power already and the next card is a 1 power card, he's only going to be gaining 15 max. However, if he's gained 14 power and the next card he eats is a 20 power Infinite, he can still end up at 34 power. So the variability is still there. You don't really know how big he can get, but what this does is directly target Thanos Blob decks, because with Thanos' stones, they're smaller power cards, right? You're more likely to hit 15 than overshooting it if you stuffed your deck with chonky cards only. So yeah, he's slightly weaker, but statistically, he can still get pretty huge.
That's what she said!
Remember when Destroyer decks were a thing? I mean, seems like so long ago. Well, they just buffed up Destroyer back to 616, where he once was, so will we see more Destroyer in the upcoming weeks? Viper goes from a 3-4 to a 3-5. Well, at least we got a little something back after they gutted the Toxic Junk archetype. I'm still not a fan of Viper being a 3-cost because she curves poorly with the hood. Talking about Toxic Junk.
Pathetic.
Celine, who was heavily impacted by Viper and Black Widow's nerf back in December, she gets a big power buff. She goes from a -1 to a 1-2. So okay, with Viper and Celine getting buffs, that's 4 more points of power in the Toxic Junk archetype, and hopefully that's enough to make it a little bit more viable.
Remember me?
Ah, a card you rarely see outside of the new player experience, but she gets 1 extra power. Are you gonna start slotting Electra into your decks now? For whatever reason, Dazzler's one of those cards they just can't get right. She's gone from 4-cost to a 3-cost, still couldn't find a home in the Surfer archetype, so I guess now let's see how she does in the 2-cost category. Dazzler's now a 2-2. Thing is, Zoo or Flood archetypes are pretty cold right now. It's a big boy meta that we're in. This could be a change that we'll appreciate once the meta changes in the future.
Hercules, do you understand me, my son?
Yes, father.
Now that was quick. Hercules gets a 1 power buff, making him a 4-7. Now personally, I think he's a fun card, but hard to play as a 4-cost. Like I said in my previous videos, it's not a power thing with Herc. I feel like if you made him a 3-cost 4 power card, he'd actually be better. Or maybe he'd be busted. Who knows? Talking about the move archetype, this is a surprising change. Dagger is now a 2-0 when this moves to a location +3 power for each enemy card there. Ooh, I'm actually really excited for this because her power potential is now so much higher. Maybe even broken? Especially with Hercules. I mean, I took this move deck to Infinite this season, so I am a fan of the archetype, right? It also kind of sets Dagger apart from the other move cards that scale up because it's more obvious now when you should play her. If you know your opponent is playing a deck with many small cards, then play Dagger. If they are playing fewer but bigger cards, then play Vulture or Human Torch instead.
I like to move it.
How are we feeling about these updates? Let me know in the comments.